I will not tell you a story that it was experience that happened in South America. Let's see, nobody from South America? So like you guys will know the persons, that's better. This is a man who became a president in one of the countries in South America. And what happened is, for many years, he was partnered with another man who's supposed to be his vice president. They were working many years in the political field, but something happened. Well, he became a president, and his right hand became the vice president. You know, in that position, little by little, you can see statements, you can hear those declarations that his right hand was making on the news, who was a little different from the president. At the very beginning, nobody noticed it, but after time passed by, they realized that little by little, he was moving away from the same ideology that brought him together to the presidency. Years passed by, what happened? They become not really friends. Time passed by, they almost become like enemies to each other. And time passed by, he became another different person, speaking a different language that he was speaking at the very beginning when they were together. So the questions always come up. Were they both agreeing in everything? Many people said, apparently seems like they agreed. But people said, now we know those little details that many people was missing at the very beginning, that it was showing that really his mind was in something else. But until time passed by, time is the one who show and prove that he really had another ideas. Do you think that's something similar in Christianity? In the Bible, in the book of Amos, if you look at it, chapter 3, verse 3, there is a question. And the question is, can two walk together if they agree? Can two persons walk together if they don't agree? Eventually no. Because what happens, differences are going to show up as they what? As they spend time together. What is the big crisis right now is happening? You know, the devil, I always tell, the devil has been attacking the very beginning plan of creation of God is being attacked tremendously. So let's see, if we look at creation, there are different things that happen in creation. As God created everything, remember, everything was good, is that right? Was the regimen of nutrition for the created beings was giving a creation? Yes. Do you think it has changed right now? Yeah, it has changed tremendously. All right? So that was changed probably many, many years ago. Then the institution of marriage was established in creation. Yes. What is the condition of the marriage right now? What is the condition of creation in the world? And what is the condition of marriage in Christianity? Are both in serious condition? Tremendous. Are there many aberrant behaviors right now for people living together? No need to mention about it. Tremendous things. So, the way that his people needs to eat, the way the institution of marriage, and then we have the final thing, the Sabbath day. Do you think that's the final attack that Satan wants to do? He wants to erase from people the image of our Creator. And you and me, we are the subjects for that. And all what the devil needs to do is he needs to change your mind. And that's how it's working right now. He's changing your mind. And let's mention a couple of Bible verses. Let's go to Genesis chapter 5. Genesis chapter 5. Let's go and read verse 22. You will find this man here. Genesis chapter 5 in verse 22. And Enoch walked with God, and after he became Methuselah, 300 years, and begot sons and daughters. How long Enoch walked with God? 300 years. How many years King Saul walked with God? Remember King Saul? Is King Saul, for what we can infer from the Bible, is he a saved man? What happened with him? Why he stopped walking with God? Does the Bible say that he received the Holy Spirit?
Yes.
Was he anointed?
Yes.
Did he prophesy?
Yes.
But he's a lost man. Enoch walked 300 years with God. Let's move one page after. In Genesis chapter 6, in verse 9. Genesis chapter 6 in verse 9 says, these are the generations of Noah. Noah was what? Just man, perfect in his generations, and Noah walked with God. So it's possible for a human being to walk with God? Yes. Would you like to do it? Yes. Yes. And what happened with Enoch? Let's go to the book of Hebrews. The book of Hebrews. Let's go to chapter 11. What is said about Enoch? Hebrews chapter 11 said, by what? By faith, Enoch was translated that he should not see death and was not found, because God had translated him. For before his translation, he had this testimony. What was his testimony? That he pleased God. What was working in Enoch? Faith. And what was the result? Pleasing God. And by that, he was translated. So that's what we know, that Enoch represents the last generation who would be alive on this earth. And that would be you or me. Do you truly believe that you are going to see Jesus coming in your time, in my time? We better believe it. We better believe it. And if that's the case, I need to have the same lifestyle, the same faith that Enoch had. What happened with King Saul? That he could not walk with the Lord. That's something for you to study. And let's see, go to the book of Jude. Let's see how much much blessings did he have. The little book before the book of Revelation. And Jude, only one chapter because it's just one small letter. In verse 14 said this, and Enoch also the seventh from Adam prophesied of this saying, behold, the Lord come with 10,000s of his saints. Did Enoch was an Adventist? No doubt that he was an Adventist. Was he a Seventh-day Adventist? No doubt about it. Did he prophesy about the coming of Jesus? He did prophesy. We are going to see what is the essence here about Enoch. Because Enoch sets a tremendous example for us. Let's go and read what is the promises of God. Because Enoch is from the Old Testament. Remember that. Right? So Enoch had to receive the same teachings. Enoch didn't saw Jesus crucified. See, right now many Christian people say, I just follow Jesus. I don't have nothing to do with the Old Testament. But people don't understand that Enoch was translated, and the last generation on this earth is going to be translated. The same thing that Enoch did is the same thing that you and me need to do. And it's going to be the same teaching. Let's go to the book of Deuteronomy. In the book of Deuteronomy, let's go in chapter 5. Look at what he said. Verse 33. Deuteronomy chapter 5, 33 said, you shall walk in what? All the ways which the Lord your God hath commanded. You might what? You might live, and that it may be well with you, and that you may prolong your days in the land which ye shall possess. Did Jesus respond to Satan in the first temptation? Not only from bread, we should live by my what?
Every word.
Every word who proceeds out of the mouth of God. So here, Enoch has this understanding. Same thing, because remember, Deuteronomy is what? It's a repetition. Was given in Exodus. In Exodus, all what happened in Exodus when they give the Ten Commandments was what? Was put on a stone, because it was something that it was taught from the very beginning. Some people said the Ten Commandments didn't exist before. But if you go and search Genesis, you will find Abraham. And we talk about his son. They say, they keep my commandments. Commandments were present from before. And here highlight, you shall walk in all the ways that the Lord your God has commanded. And let's go a little bit in Leviticus 26. Leviticus 26. Look at what it says in verse Leviticus 26. Let's see what it says, verse 12. It said, Leviticus chapter 26, verse 12. And I will walk among you, and will be your God, and you shall be my people. Is the promise of God? that God wants to walk with you?
No.
He wants to walk with you. He wants to be our God. We read in the book of Isaiah. Remember that Bible verse we read in Isaiah, in the Bible verse there? Isaiah 43. In Isaiah 43, the scripture reading for today, we said, when thou passest through the waters, I will be with thee. And through the rivers, they shall not overflow you. When you walk through the fire, you shall not be burned, neither shall the flame kindle upon you. Do you remember which persons quoted this Bible verse? The three friends of Daniel. That was the answer that they gave to King Nabucodonosor. He said, when the king tried to give him a second opportunity, he said, please, I'm going to give you another opportunity. You need to obey, bow to this image. He said, think about it. He said, King, we don't need to think about it. Don't need to give us another opportunity. We will never bow to this image, because our God can deliver us from the fire. Did they believe that? They believe that. He said, but even though he doesn't do it, we still won't bow to this image. You see, do they believe in their heart the promise of God? They did believe in the promise of God. And this, look at what he said in the verse, let's see. Verse 10, same Isaiah 43. Ye are my witness, said the Lord, and my servant, whom I have chosen, that you may know and believe me and understand that I am He. Before me there was no God formed, neither shall there be after me. Is that a beautiful promise? There is no God before him, and there will be nobody after him. So then, what does the devil try to do? Remember what the devil tried to do with Adam and Eve? Eventually what the devil was trying to do is what? Is trying to make that you and me become our own gods. That's all what he wants to do. Remember what the serpent told Eve? He doesn't want you to eat of that. He doesn't want you to become like him. And that's the big deception. And this is the deception we were talking today in the Sabbath school lesson. That the devil is concentrated on what? He wants you to exalt yourself among everything. The reason why this world is what it is because there are two major problems. And the devil is feeding those things. One thing is what? Selfishness. Selfishness because I am always thinking of myself. What is good for me? What is not good for me? Is convenient for me or is not convenient for me? I like it or I don't like it. Selfishness. This is what the devil is using if he sees as we walk every day. You wake up, you go and do something, and somebody tells you something that is not pleasant to you, rapidly you respond with anger, defensively. Because the devil tried to feed that. Oh, that's unfair for you. Please complain. And we just keep giving attention to selfishness. It's a terrible thing. Selfishness erect in us. If on top of that you add money, on top of that you add idols, believe me, it's much worse. Self becomes very strong. And that's another God. That's what the devil is trying to do without us noticing. Do you think that the devil is concentrating in deceiving God's people? That's how it's working. And there is another tool that he used besides the selfishness. Is what? Covetousness. Covetousness is the same thing. Covetousness is probably much more terrible because nobody can see covetousness. Because covetousness is what? Desire. You see, desire, my desire is for material things. My desire is for what? For money. My desires are for what? Positions. My desire is to be recognized. My desire is for people to treat me better. So basically, all those things are tools that the devil is using to erect another God in us. Can you imagine? Trying to walk with God, but when God tells you, if somebody slaps you in the face, what you need to do? Then self comes alive and says, why are you doing this to me? I don't deserve that. And then comes the complaint, the complaint, the complaint. And when we cannot complain, it starts another thing, the murmuring. Because that's what basically the murmuring is. The murmuring is selfishness cannot be expressed publicly. Then I do it in private. Remember when Moses they were given the manna? Many Bible verses talks about the people of God in their tents, in their families. That's what they were doing. The murmuring, the complaining in the privacy. Because they couldn't do it publicly. And that's the selfishness. That's the covetousness. When those things are affected, it's very serious. And we see the results that happen with our people, right? So that's what we need to be very careful if we want to walk with God. Because those things cannot be in our lives. And let's go and see how did everything start, the summary of those things. In the book of Isaiah, right where we are, if we just move a few chapters, 59, we can read. Let's go and read the first two verses, why they start this problem. 59 verse 1 said, behold, the Lord's hand is not shortened that he cannot save, neither his ear heavy that he cannot hear. Is God merciful here? He said, my hand is not short. I'm willing to provide to you. I'm ready to hear you, willing to hear you. Verse 2, but your iniquities have separated between you and your God, and your sins have hid his face from you, that he will not hear. And in the New Testament, you will find when it says one of the biggest sins is love for money. But what it really is love for money? That's covetousness. It's covetousness. And that's the problem. Selfishness. Those two things are probably the two biggest. And I believe the next one is pride. Those are the things that basically triggers the whole change effects, how we, little by little, we separated from God. We decide, God wants to walk with us, but then that's what happened with King Saul. And if that happened with King Saul, we don't need to be following his example. We need to be following Enoch. He was able to preserve 300 years working with God. How many years more do you think we have before Jesus comes? I'm telling you, if you look at the image, the metal man, I'm telling you, we are on the tip of the toenails. So we need to be ready to be translated. Ellen G. White said that the events, when they come, they will come all of a sudden. It will be suddenly when all those events will come that people will be surprised. If we are caught by surprise, it means we have not been prepared. And if Enoch represents, Ellen G. White said, Enoch represents the generation who will be translated at the second coming of Jesus. And if he represents that, do you think we need to learn the lessons from him? And let's go and read the book of Proverbs. In Proverbs chapter 16, so I read verse 7. Very soon, my friends, there is going to be a whole world raised against the faithful people of God. We are going to be on one side. It's either we are going to be persecuted or we are going to be accusing and persecuting others. Verse 7. When a man's ways please the Lord, he maketh even his enemies to be at peace with him. But what is the key word here? Is the first part where it says, when a man's way please the Lord. Do you think that Jesus did something that we need to learn from him? In John chapter 8, let's go in John chapter 8, look at what it says in the verse. Look at what it says, verse 29. And he that sent me, John 8:29, and he that sent me is with me. Was Jesus walking with God? And he that sent me is with me. The Father hath not left me alone, for I do always those things that what? Please him. So what is in the mind of Jesus? Is the mind of Jesus a checklist? Do this, don't do this? No. His mind is, I need to please my Father. That's a lot. Right? One of the problems that I've seen in some families is, sometimes it's so sad to talk about it, but I've seen homes where the kids grow up in a very good Christian environment. You know, everything is fine until the parents, they have control over the children. But once they reach certain age, they make their own decisions, and then later on you see them, hey, wait for the faith. What happened? In their minds is nothing about what they think my father. As a father, would you be glad to hear one day, they said, I met your son or I met your daughter in another faraway place. They were offering to do something, and the answer is, I'm sorry, I cannot do it because my parents will be sad. Would you be glad to hear That your children are talking about like that? I'm sorry, I cannot make son my father or my mother. Do you think that's really love for the parents? Mm-hmm. So it's not a checklist. Do this, don't do this. No, it's what is in your heart. When the heart has developed the tendency just to please my father, that's our goal in our education for our children. One, I think I mentioned several times, I met a gentleman, I think right now he's in his late 70s, close to 80, has a training center in Colombia, and he's been for over 15 years, almost 20, more than 20, I believe, training in a rural area, young people who comes there to be trained. And he said, one of the hardest things that I know about this job is making the young people to love God. He can teach him everything about the Bible. He can teach him to do medical missionary work. But he said his hardest difficulty is make the youth really to love God. Because many are involved, God only filling a space in your life. But my life is something that nobody can touch. My life, my goals, my job is first. God depends what I have to do. You see, that's the problem. Jesus always did the things that pleased the Father. He knew that the Father loved humanity with all his mind, strength, and power, and Jesus did the same for you and for me. And this is what, do you think that this is an example for us? Like the question comes is, how did Enoch walk with God? Do we need to know that? So we need an extra help here. Ellen G. White, by the power of the Holy Spirit, has revealed something for us. You can find it in different, in the book Last Day Events, over the page 70, around that, you will find how is that Enoch walked with God. And we will review those points that are important for us. The point number one that she said is about how did Enoch walk with God. He said, he educated his mind and heart to ever feel that he was in the presence of God. So Enoch, when he woke up, he saw that God was with him. He truly believed it. But what he needed to do for that? He educated his mind and heart to truly believe that God was with him. Should we do that? When you wake up, you have to keep in mind, Jesus is walking with me. By then, I need to be reverent in my words, my expressions, how I treat my son, my daughter, my wife, my kids, my friends, my neighbors, my co-workers. Because Jesus is with me. Do you think that? And here said, he educated his mind. Can you get an education in just one day? He educated means we need to practice. We need to make it a habit every day. Another expression to say the same thing is, he kept the Lord continually before him. What it means that is you and me, we need to believe not only that Jesus is here, we need to believe angels are around this place. How many are here? Maybe 50, 60? Do you think if God will give us eyes, we will see more than 120 angels here right now? And they are here. And we need to believe. And we need to believe when we walk out from here, Jesus is with you. It should give us reverence. What I'm going to eat, what I'm going to dress, what I'm going to watch, what I'm going to hear, what words I'm going to use, what kind of thoughts I'm going to have, because Jesus can penetrate my mind and my heart. And also, if God is with you, who can be against us? It should take away every fear. We read Isaiah 43, I will be with you. Waters will come in those waters when this world come in persecution, they won't overflow us. We need to trust on that. When the fire, when the trials, the difficulties comes to our lives, we don't need to be worried. He will be with us. Do you want that? We need to walk with God. Because, remember, like the three Hebrew strengths of Daniel, God will not save us from the trials. God will save us in the trials. And that's important. And that requires education. That's what he said. He educated his mind and heart to ever feel that he was in the presence of God. This world, the education that we receive right now, so in many places, is based on what? Senses. Everything is feeding your senses. Right? And that's the education that we have learned. So we need to re-educate our minds. Do you think? Because we should learn to live by what? By faith. But in this world, we learn to live by what? For what I see. I feel safe because I have here my thick bank account. I feel safe because I can see this house is mine. Is that right? Are we growing by senses? And this is the problem. That Jesus needs to lead us to another way. And if that requires a re-education, the question is, we need to start right away. Don't delay. So he educated his mind and heart to ever feel. And when he said to ever, it means what? 24/7. Is that right? It means until he comes, right? Until we see coming in his glory. We might see right now through what? To a little rounded glass, but very soon we'll see what? Face to face. So he kept the Lord continually before him. Point number one. And then it comes the next thing. When in perplexity, his prayers would ascend to God to keep him. Perplexities are going to come. Perplexities, difficulties is part of our education. It's part of our training. It's part of our shaping in life. So if you have difficulties, you've been betrayed, people has been a big deception to you, your work, your job, your family, big deception is surrounded, you don't worry about it. Did you read what is in the precious promise in the bulletin today? Let's see if I have it here. I thought that I wrote one, but I guess it comes from the book, The Ministry of Healing. Look at what it says. There are no dangers which they may not escape. There is not a sorrow, nor a grievance, nor a human weakness for which he has not provided a remedy. You see, do we have a mighty God? Yeah. Who wants to provide remedy for everything, help for the grievance, counseling for different things in our lives? Believe, in this world, the devil is attacking perfect. Don't worry for all those difficulties that comes to your life, because Enoch went through those problems. But Enoch was translated. But Enoch was able to walk with God. And how long did he did? He did it 300 years. And this is then he said, in this point number 2, what was the prayer of Enoch? Do you think that his prayer was successful? This is how he would pray. He said, teach me thy way, that I may not err. What is thy pleasure concerning me? What shall I do to honor thee, my God? What was in the mind of Enoch? To pleasing the Father, to bring in honor and glory to the Father. You see, teach me thy way. You see, the final prayer for us is not asking God to do things for me and provide things for me. The final prayer is to what? To raise me, to be an honor and glory to God, and that I might do everything in my life what it please the Father. He wants, God delights when we open our heart to Him. And the Bible says, in one of the Psalms said, if we are faithful to Him, He is willing to provide the wishes of our heart. That's what the Bible says. Psalm 36 or 37. You will find in verse 4. He said He will provide the desires of your heart. But the final goal for us to be translated is we need to reach to the point. Teach me thy way. It's not like God, I want to do this, but I cannot obtain it. Because then it's my way what I want. Is that right? Then I am just bringing God to do my way. No. Here Enoch was praying to God, teach me thy way that I may not err. Because if I try to follow my way, believe me, sooner or later error will come. And the consequences are very serious. What is thy pleasure concerning me? Looking to please the Father. What shall I do to honor thee, my God? You see, if we wake up and 24/7, I truly re-educate my mind and my heart, believing that Jesus is with me, who do you think people will see eventually? Because as we walk together with Him, His character will come to me. Is that right? I will be thinking how Jesus was talking with people. How did Jesus deal with people? What the teachings of Jesus? And as I meditate walking with Him, His character will be part of my character. How do we become transformed? Remember the Bible verse? 2 Corinthians, what is it? By watching Him, we become transformed. And as we walk with Him, and you walk and say, Lord, I'm going to talk to my wife, please give me the words that I need to use. Give me the right tone. No, sorry, Lord, I'm just too rough here. Can you help me and shape my voice, my character, my gestures? Is that right? Should we ask those things? You can imagine how much need is every day the need for the Lord. He wants to transform us. And as I talk back and forth, He will feed me with His word. Do you think that at some point Jesus will tell me, sorry, I don't know you? He will never tell us that. But that's what happened. In the final statement, those virgins, remember who said Jesus to them, to the last few ones? Sorry, I don't know you. You can't have knowledge. You learn all the Bible verses. Like I was telling you about this person who was an ex-Seventh-day Adventist. He said, I have to recognize, I learned a lot about the Bible, but the problem is, he didn't establish communion with God, with Jesus. And then Jesus eventually said, I'm sorry, I don't know you. Because eventually you follow your ways, you did not follow my ways. So, reeducate our minds, point number 1. So we can keep the Lord continually before us. Point number 2. Make sure that our prayers will ascend to Him. And in our prayers, we have to be focused on the Lord's ways, what it pleases the Lord, and bring honor and glory to God. This is how Enoch did it, and this is the example for us. There is something else that Enoch did. He refused to take any course that would offend his God. What he did? He refused to take any course that might offend his God. Wow, do you think that this is a very high standard in human Christianity behavior? That's tremendous. Not only to please him, but I don't want to offend my God. That's what I need to pray. We need to pray every day. Lord, I don't want to do nothing that might offend you. Not only that please you, but nothing that offends you. That's very high regard in this world. So that was the point number 3. Point number 4 that Enoch did, he said, he was constantly shaping his way and course in accordance with God's commandments. You see, let's see, I used to when I go to Peru, I learned this lesson myself because God teaches a lesson. I was going to visit the brothers there. Sabbath came in, and Sabbath finished the church and everything, and there is a near hospital close to the church. And near the hospital, you can imagine the hospitals from Peru. Here those are luxury. You don't have to be worried. You go in and they give you everything. In Peru, it's terrible. All you have is they found a mattress, if you're lucky, in a bed, okay, and that's it. So you need to bring everything. Every morning you need to buy all your medications. And people are very poor. So just to go there one afternoon and helping a couple of families, that's really, you feel like it's not enough. Such a great need, pain and suffering over there that you can imagine. Well, several Sabbaths, we said, okay, anybody wants to go? Said, I'm sorry, we have a, how they call, it was like a tournament or something between churches. There is activities like volleyball, soccer, stuff like that. So did you see? We need to guard the edges of the Sabbath. When he said, the Lord, remember my Sabbath, is to what? What we need to remember about the Sabbath? It's not about not doing things. To keep it holy. You see, do you think that we have to be shaping ourselves about God's commandments? Covetousness. How many times we have been deciding things? How many times we have seen things that our eyes liked it and said, I want it? You see, every time when there is something that is said, I like it, without the permission of God, whose way are we following? Our way. And that's the problem. Without me realizing, I'm opening the door for a little bit of covetousness. And the problem is not the little bit of covetousness. The problem is what? I am moving away from God. And I truly believe, this is very important for us. I remember, many, many years ago, one friend had a house and he said, here, there is some foundation here. I need to do a little shed. I said, okay. I said, well, it was many years ago. I was visiting one day. So he said, look, all the foundation is here, but I was looking around and I saw pieces of wood. One was rotten, another one was old. So it looked like it was different ages, right? It said, but look like somebody has tried to do something here, and something has happened, they were unable to do it. I said, I don't know, but look at what I'm going to do another foundation, but there is one here, So I'm just going to put a piece of wood and then I accommodate everything. Okay? I mean, I'm just ignorant in construction, but a little know about math. So when he put the pieces, you just go and measure one side, okay, 3 feet. You go to the other side, 3.5 feet. I said, there's going to be a problem here. You see? He said, no, eventually I will accommodate everything. Okay, well, just brought the pieces, plywood, with one piece here, and the other side, there was a big hole over there, like a triangle shape. At the very bottom, little, tiny, you couldn't perceive it, because if you measure the bottom, it looked close to 3 feet. But as you keep going up, it keeps getting bigger and bigger, the gap. Is that right? And that's the problem with Christianity. If we neglect a little bit of difference in our ways with God's ways, right now we might not perceive it. But if we allow 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, my walking is distant. And let me tell you, God is not looking for a perfect pastor who knows everything in the Bible. I believe that in the salvation, imagine like, have you seen those huge buildings, 50, 60 floors? If you look at it and see, wow, 90 degrees flat with the ground. But if somebody starts building something with just 1 or 2 degrees off of inclination, what is going to happen? Eventually it's going to tip over if an earthquake comes, right? Because we are a little off to start with. And I think God, when he looks, I think in his plan of salvation, he said, wow, look at this 50-floor building. Wow, perfect, 90 degrees. He followed my way, goes to heaven. Then he might come to look at you or me and says, wow, barely one wall, barely seen on the ground. But he said, 90 degrees. Wow, he's following my way. He goes to heaven. You see what is important? It's not important how much we reach. It's how we are building around. Do you see the thief that he was on the right hand of Jesus? Was he able to be baptized? No, he wasn't able to be baptized. But Jesus said, you will be with me. Because if he would have the option, I'm sure the next step would be to get baptized. But he was walking with the Lord. He was having the same feeling, emotions, ideas of Jesus. And he said, you will be with me. And this is the thing that, we need to be careful. Because here it says, he was constantly shaping his way in course, in accordance with what? God's commandments. And people said in some other evangelical churches, but keeping God's commandments don't save you. See, that's what the Bible said. When you missed one presentation, when we were ready on this last week, Brother Brett spoke about something very important. You know what he spoke about it? Obedience. You cannot imagine the value of obedience. That's why God appreciates so much in his people obedience, because when we are obedient, our will becomes re-educated, trained to the method of living in heaven. In heaven, everything is by obedience. Do you see the perfect shapes of this solar system? They are perfectly obedient to the laws of God. And that's what it needs to be in your life and my life. Lord, I don't know why, I don't understand it, but I'm going to do it. Do you think that will be a blessing? It will. There is a power from heaven when we work in perfect obedience. When we make our kids to be obedient, we are educating their will. When we correct them and we don't let them go in their ways, we are correcting their wills, or we are letting them do their own ways. That's what we have the fatality right now of many leaders, churches, government, because they were spoiled kids Could they give him everything, and when they grow up and have their own mind, they feel, oh, I think this is the way. Forget about it. The whole world goes in destruction. And the same thing can happen in Christianity. One leader is being used not to obey faithfully to God, never got used to look what God said, that's a problem. Will be a problem. But here says he was constantly shaping his way and course in accordance with God's commandments. And this is the other part, the next point, the fourth. Sorry, the fifth. He said, and he had perfect confidence and trust in his heavenly Father that he would help him. Have you ever, when you pray for something, have you ever finished the prayer saying, God, thank you because I know that you are going to hear me? That's perfect confidence. That's what Jesus had, a perfect confidence. Jesus walked with God. You see those miracles that Jesus did? He was a man, right, like you and me. But who worked those miracles, truly? It was God. Because he saw he was one with the Father. Whatever Jesus asked, he was doing it. He would do it. But he was a man like you and me, in perfect communion, walking with the Father. There is something else that we studied at point 1 about education for our heart and mind to feel the presence of God constantly and forever. And his prayer was concentrated in the ways of God, the glory for God, and the pleasure for God. The point number 3, he refused anything that offends God. He has always, point 4, constantly shaping his ways and courses according to God's commandment. And he said, in point 6, we said he had perfect confidence and trust. But the point I think that it was most important, or almost at the same importance, is this last one. He had no thought or will of his own. Hear that? He had no thought or will of his own. It was all submerged in the will of his Father. You see? Do you think Enoch was saying, oh, I'm sorry, I don't like it? I'm sure, according to this, Enoch never said that. Enoch said, so, I'm sorry. God won't like for me to do that. So his will was merged with the will of his Father, of God. He had no will of his own. No thought or will of his own. Did you see that's totally a high reverence, high submission to God that sometimes we are thinking. And that's the counsel for the young people and also for us because we all the time learn. We sometimes when people is young always at work, is that right? Oh, what am I going to do? What is going to work that way? And you know, if life keeps advancing, if people are, oh, what's going to happen with this? What is going to do this? You see? Yeah, we need to learn from him. He had no thought or will of his own because his life was given to the Father, and the Father is who has perfect control to open and close doors for you and for me. Can we believe that? You see, God has you from the hands. He will tell you. Now, he can change hearts of people. He can open and close doors. I have seen things when sometimes there was situations needs to be resolved, and I said, Lord, I don't see any human way to fix this problem. When you let's imagine, you said, how did it happen? Said to people, said, I never hear nothing like that. It happened. So how Ellen G. White said, God has thousands of ways to provide for you and for me that we don't even know yet. Can you imagine that? Do you think that the three Hebrew men, they could imagine themselves throwing in this fire 10 times harder than any other times, and they came out alive? You see, this is the lessons for us that we need to. But like the Bible said, let's finish in Hebrew chapter 3. Because there is always this battle. And this battle is going to be until the end comes. But we need to learn and to make sure that we don't make the mistake that these other people made. In Hebrew chapter 10, look at what it said in verse. Let's start with verse 7, because this is important for our times that we are living. Verse 7, wherefore, Hebrews chapter 3, verse 7. Wherefore, as the Holy Ghost said, today, if you will hear his voice, verse 8, harden not your hearts, as in the provocation, in the day of temptation in the wilderness, when your father tempted me, proved me, and saw my works 40 years. Wherefore I was grieved with that generation, and said, they do always err in where? In their hearts. And they have no knowing my works. How can you imagine? Was these people thinking in pleasing God? No, they were not. Were these people praying to know God's ways? No. He was showing. Can you imagine the generation who came from Egypt? If we just go right now and we saw the freeway open or the ocean open from here to the island, would you take it lightly? This is what they saw. They saw the ocean open. Not only open, they walked on dry ground. This is for the unbeliever to have a faith like you cannot imagine. But despite that, they ignored it. They were protected by day and night. They never missed anything. Their shoes never wear out. Can you imagine that 40 years? And despite that, people prefer to follow the inclinations of their own hearts. It means their own minds. That's what Ellen G. White said. Our worst enemies is who? Self. And this is what we need to find. Our fears, different things happening. But just remember, we need to be trusting God. Noah was able to do it. Enoch was able to do it. The challenge is for you and for me is, do you want to walk with God as Enoch did it? You see, those are 6 simple points that Ellen G. White, by the inspiration of the Holy Spirit, by the mercy of God, is giving us the secrets how to walk with God and be ready for translation. Very simple. The thing is, I need to be willing to be educated for that direction. And not only that, remember that Ellen G. White said when we pray, said, please God, make me willing to be willing. Remember that expression? Who is the one who works the doing in us? Is God, right? The Holy Spirit. But we need to ask for that. Don't stay dormant. Like, I'm okay, I have my house, I have my job, I have my retirement, I have everything, I have my husband, I have my wife, I have my kids, I have accomplished the American dream. Forget about it. That's the ruin for salvation. Let's look for the things of heaven. Don't look for the things on this earth. Everything on this earth is going to disappear. Not even a stone is going to be upon another stone. Whatever the Lord leads us, everything is going to be temporary. We are foreigners. We are passing by on this ground. Let's live every day thinking that our home is in heaven. And very soon, and I'm sure very soon, we need to be all together like we are here today. Maybe sitting in Jesus, be explaining us things that we don't know. Would you like to be doing that? So let's accept the challenge and say in our prayers, God, I want to walk like Enoch. Educate my mind, please, Lord. Give me the experience that I need. Let me get rid of self, covetousness, my own ideas, my own thoughts. I don't want nothing but only your mind, your thoughts in me. And He will make it a reality. Because the Bible says whatever we ask Him, according to His will, He will give it to us. And God and Jesus, they are no liars. So God bless us and help us. And let's meditate on this song that we are going to sing.